Okay, so today we are going to cover 4 of the 7 basic quality tools. There's a file here. There's an instructor file and a student file. I think I sent out the instructor file. It's got all the answers in it. But we got a couple of YouTube videos. We're gonna look at how to create a histogram real quick. And if you want more information on it, you got another Duku video that's a little bit longer. This one's about 4.5 minutes.
Deepfake videos are everywhere now. You have probably already seen them. What can we do about it?
Welcome to another video. In this video, we'll create histogram using the statistics chart that's been added to Excel 365. For this video, I prepared the data that we'll be using. So I'm just going to highlight this. Creating histogram is similar to creating any chart in Excel right now. Just first highlight the data that you have, and we're going to go to Insert, and you will see in the middle here says Insert Statistics Chart. So if you click on the arrow, you will see that there are 2 charts that's available now for stats, the box plot and the histogram. Clicking on histogram, you will get the chart. As you can see here, there's no gaps between the bars. Excel automatically select the bins. You don't have to go through analysis toolpack to do all of that. However, Excel automatically chooses the bin widths and the number of bins. So we're going to choose that. Plus anything that you can do with a bar graph or a pie graph, changing the bar's color or individual bar color, you can do that. Our main concern here is to go and change the number of bins or the bin width. So we're going to right click on the horizontal axis. We're going to say format axis. Now you can see here that the axis option for the bins are automatically chosen by Excel. You can have here 2 things. Either you can choose the bin width, or you can choose the number of bins. So if we choose the number of bins, let's say 5, you will see that now Excel will have 5 bins. And it automatically detects the lowest, which is 20, the highest, which is 40, and divide them over 5 bins. That's why each bin is between 20, 24, 24, and 28, and so on. If you want to go with the bin widths, you can say, well, let's keep the bin widths 5. So I want to go 20 to 25, 25 to 30, 30 to 35, and 35 to 40. And you can see that now we have 4 bins because we specified the number of bins. Okay. Other than that, the rest is the same as what we did with any bar or pie chart. You can change the color of individual bars. You can change the title. You can insert any features that we discussed in other videos when we did histogram, pie chart, bar chart, or column chart. So to repeat, simple as select your region, go to Insert, choose histogram, then right-click on the horizontal axis, go to Format axis, and you can either choose the bin width or the number of bins that you want, or you can choose automatic if you want to keep it automatic, or you can choose by category. This is if the categories are not numbers. If these are not numbers, Excel will group the values by category. Let's say you have frequency table of colors, favorite colors, then you can do it that way. Check marks, numbers, all of this are similar to other charts that we discussed before. So this is how simple it is right now to do a histogram in Excel. You don't have to go through specifying the bins and go into a data analysis toolpack to do that anymore. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to look for more videos and don't forget to subscribe to my channel.
Okay, so that's that one. Now we are going to look at the Pareto and the Ogive. Now, if you want to know how to do the normal curve, overlay it onto the histogram. That's this one. We're not going to go through it, but sometimes you'll need that normal curve overlaid on it. But the Pareto, so this is the older version. So this is the Pareto because it's done in descending order, and then this is called the Ogive. In the newer version, what he was showing you, insert histogram, you can do it right here. But he's going to show you, this guy's going to run you through the older version and how you go about doing it. So we want to go to 1330.
You can use Monday.com to boost your team's efficiency, and I'm going to show you how.
Welcome to Excel 2000. Ones are kind of hard to see. Solid line, and I'm going to select black. If it's not black, click black. That just helps us to differentiate. Click OK. Click over here. You can see we have those. Now, let's go ahead and add a second data series to this. There's a few ways we could do this, but I'm going to show you the kind of cool, quick way. Highlight, Control C, click on the chart somewhere, and Control V. I copied some cells. I clicked on the chart, and when I paste Control V, it pastes it right into the chart. Now, that's not what we want. We want to select it and change two things. We want to change the chart type, and we want to change it to a second axis. Now, it is very hard because these are all less than the number 1. And these numbers are, integers. It's hard to select that. So another way, if you're having trouble selecting, is to go out to Layout. And up here in the current selection, you can select the drop-down and select series frequency, and it highlights the columns, or whatever aspect or element you want. I'm going to say series percentage cumulative frequency. Now that I have that selected, I want to change the chart type. So I'm going to go to Design, Change Chart Type to Line with markers. That still doesn't help us. It's easier to select now. Now I want to format this. Now Control 1 is not working for me when I have this double chart. I'm not quite sure why. So I'm going to right click and point to Format Data Series. There's actually a ribbon way up in Format to do that also. And look at this. We want to change to secondary axis. Watch this right now. Now both these numbers are plotted off this, but as soon as I say secondary axis, it jumps up, and look at that. That is so cool. That's how to combine a chart. All right. Now, I would like to select these and add some percentages above. So I'm going to go to Layout, Data Labels, and I'm going to say Above. That's kind of cool. I'm going to leave that here. Now, one thing about putting these here is that now we have duplicates. And actually, if we delete this, it doesn't do any good at all. Let me try that again. No, I don't think if you delete it, there we go. That doesn't work at all. Control Z. So I'm actually going to trick this. I'm going to right click and go to Font Color on the mini toolbar, white. Just trick it, flat out trick it. Now the way you interpret this chart is it's always the upper number. 48% of the sales were $50 or less. 71% of the sales were $100 or less. 90% of the sales were $150 or less. So this is kind of mashing two charts together. Now I'm going to pull this out of the way. Turn off the Dancing Ants Escape. Scroll down right just a little bit. I want to, okay, so there we go. And I'm going to pull this with my move cursor right down here. Now I want to create an actual XY scatter. And the trick is for an ogive is you want to attach the first part of the line, and this is going to be an XY scatter where we actually use the XY scatter not with markers but with lines. It's got to be attached to the axis at whatever point the smallest point is. So for the we want the upper limits for our x value, except for the first point, which is the lower limit of the first class. Now here it happens to be 0. In our age data in the last couple of videos, it was 15. So here I'm going to say equals, and it's always the lower limit of the first class. That's the x. And then obviously, if we take the lower limit, what's the percentage of transactions we sold for less than or equal to 0? 0%. If it was the age data we had from before, 0 of the transactions were less than 15. So this is an extra item we have to add above and beyond these data points up here. Now the rest of it is straightforward because the point of this is less than or equal to the upper limit. So the rest of these are all upper limits. Equals, I click on the upper limit. Notice that's a relative cell reference. As I copy this down, the blue box will move down. Control Enter and drag it down. Click on the last cell in F2. You can see, sure enough, that worked perfect. Same with the cumulative frequencies. Because remember, the whole point of this is at any particular cumulative percentages, it's less than or equal to the upper value. So that's the first one there. As we copy it down, the box will move. Double click and send it down. All right. The only thing different here is that we now have an anchor for our line on the horizontal axis. Now I highlight this, and this is an XY. So I'm going to go up to Insert, Scatter. Not that one. We don't have our actual raw data points. We actually have some more or less predicted values here. And I'm going to click this one. And there we go. I'm going to click on this Delete. Maybe delete the lines. Percent cumulative frequency, that's OK. You know, I've been showing you how to Control-Z, come up here, which is fine. You either make formulas or edit your text there. You can also, if you get the dash lines, you can come to the end and type something. Then I'm going to click over here. Now, let's add some percentages here. Layout. Data labels maybe above. We could actually delete this if we want. It won't hurt the chart because it doesn't have both a primary and a secondary. So yeah, I know, maybe you want it or maybe you don't. Control-Z if you want it here. It's got a little bit of repetition here. Maybe we get rid of this delete, but maybe we add the lines back. Format plot area. I don't think I remember how to add the lines back up. Grid lines, there it is, horizontal grid lines. Let's do major. So there we go there. I don't think I've ever done that before. So however you want to do your chart, but clearly we can see 90% with this Ogive chart. $150 or less per transactions. That was 90% of the transactions. For 71%, about 71%, transactions were $100 or less. So that's an Ogive. All right, so we did it with the X.
And that's you get the idea there. Let's go back and see what else we're going to do. Scatter diagrams. So this is about 6 minutes on creating scatter diagrams in an older version of Excel.
You love the internet. But do you love your internet?
Welcome to Excel 2010 statistics video number
2.
Listed vertically in categories along the horizontal axis. Now, even my dad, a PhD physicist, phones me up one day and goes, I can't get my scatter chart to work. And sure enough, he was using a line chart instead of a scatter. So X, Y, scatter, two numbers, we use scatter. When you have sample data, you should use the points. If you have a model that predicts the actual X, Y scatter points, like, for example, in business, you have fixed cost, variable costs, sales revenue analysis, you might have a model that predicts. And so then you might use the scatter chart with a connecting line. But if you have actual randomly selected data points, the line doesn't make any sense. You actually want the points. All right, so I'm going to click. And there is our XY scatter. Let me scroll up here. All right, and so this is good. One of the glaring omissions when we click on the default chart is there's no X-axis label or Y-axis label. Now, we'll put that in just a moment, but here's the essence of what XY scatter means. I'm going to click on this point right here, click on it twice. If you hover your cursor, you can see it says 1066. That means studied 10 hours, got 66 score. Over here, study 13 hours, got 100 points on the score. XY means you move along the X-axis a certain amount. So we moved, let's see, what's that one? We moved 13 out and then 100 up. Hours along X-axis, horizontal axis, score along the vertical or Y-axis. Two numbers, out a certain distance, up a certain distance to get a single point that represents the relationship between those two numbers. All of these together, we get a visual impression. It sort of looks like the more you study, the higher your score. The longer the time, the higher your score. That's called a direct relationship. Actually, let's go ahead. I'm already confused looking at this chart. Let's add a label here and a label here. Not only that, but this is chart junk. We don't need that, so I'm going to delete. I don't need this title, delete. I don't need these lines. Now notice when I click on the outside edge, it highlights the whole chart. I want to click on the inside, delete, get rid of those. All right, now let's go up to Layout. In the Labels group, Axis Titles, we'll do horizontal first, and we'll do below. Immediately, the label shows up, and it's a solid line, not a dashed line. You immediately click in the formula bar, type an equal sign. I want to link that label to that cell right there. B18, enter. And so now we have our label. All right, now I'm going to go back up to Layout, Labels, Axis Titles, and now I'm going to do the vertical, and I'm going to choose Rotated. You can also hit the F2 key. Watch up here. I'm going to hit F2, and it puts the cursor up there. I type an equal sign, and I click on the cell with the label for my Y or vertical data. All right, so now we have time studying hours along the X or horizontal and score on test. Now, so the way it works is we go out a certain amount and up. It looks like, right, as hours increases, our score increases. That's called a direct or positive relationship. Later, we'll see how to calculate a number associated with that relationship called coefficient of correlation. And positive, when we get a positive number, it means it's direct or positive. Later, we have an example in this video when we get data points going like this. It means as X increases, the Y will decrease. All right. Also in this video, we'll have an example when there is no relationship, when the data points are just all over the place. Now in this video, this is what we're going to do, make the scatter chart. But there's a great feature in the scatter chart. We can add a trend line that'll add the estimated simple linear regression equation and R squared. We'll see how to calculate all that stuff in a later video. But watch this. It's so easy. Right-click the data points, point to Add Trend Line. I'm going to click Add Trend Line. And instantly, and does this fit in? So it asks us what kind of, or by default, it shows linear here, right? We want that. We could have some other relationship, but we want to keep it linear. And then come down to the bottom, and it says Display Equation on Chart and Display R squared. I'm going to click Close. And just like that, I'm going to click on it, and with my Move cursor, I'm going to drag it down here. That is amazing. We'll see how to do the calculating to determine all this stuff later. But look at that. Y equals 4.229, x plus 34.362. R squared equals 0.72. Now, this is our typical equation. If you remember from math, it's y equals mx plus b. In our textbook, they refer to it as predicted y equals b0, which is the y-intercept.
All right, so you guys get the general idea there. And then the last one we're going to look at today, X bar and R charts. Now, these are done at the factory floor, so we don't do them here in purchasing.
Some of us have always felt it.
These are
that burning
SPC
desire
or
to go
control
out
charts.
there and see things for ourselves, to find out how the world was discovered. We are the curious and the sea.
Welcome back. Let's look at using Excel to develop X bar and R control charts. You can see from the screen here the data that we're going to use in this example. The data is from this problem 20-20. This data represents filling weights of coffee cans. And so let's develop X bar and R control charts. You can see the formulas here for those charts. The center line for the X bar chart is X double bar, which is the average of the X bars. The center line for the R chart is R bar, which is the average of the ranges. So let's start by just calculating the average.
And R is the range.
And then we can just copy this down. And then the range, which will just be equal to the max of these values minus the minimum of the same set of values, these 5 observations. And then we can copy this down. And the X bar that will be on our X bar control chart, and the R will be on our R control chart. And we just find the average of these equals average. Average of the X bars we call X double bar. And then we can really just copy it over, find the average of these ranges. And so there's the X double bar and R bar, which we'll need. Now for the X bar control chart, the center line is equal to X double bar. So I can just put a link equals to X double bar. And use the F4 key to make that a fixed reference. And then copy it down the page. And then let's go ahead and do the same thing with the range control chart. The link is R bar. Again, F4 key. And then copy it down the page. Okay, so now let's find the lower and upper control limits for the X bar chart. You can see it's our X double bar plus or minus the constant A2, which in advance I found these constants from a table. The table is very commonly available. And it's indexed by sample size n, which would be 5. There are 5 observations. And so for n equals 5, A2 is this value 0.577. So I can just say equals X double bar. And freeze that. And minus the constant A2. Again, freeze that. And multiply it times R bar. And by freezing each of those references, the lower control limit is going to be a horizontal line, so it should have the same value in all of those. And we could just copy this over and then change the minus to a plus. and then copy that down, and that would give us our upper control chart limit. For the range chart, lower control limit is D3 times R bar. Again, from that same table of constants, I looked up and found this value based on sample size n, and then multiply that times the R bar. Then just copy it down. And then for the upper control limit equals the constant D4, fixed reference, times R bar, fixed reference. And then we can copy this down. Okay. Now we have the values for creating the charts, and so if we were to highlight this X bar range and then highlight the control limit range and go to insert and line, and then we would get the beginnings of creating this X bar control chart. And so you can see the upper center line, lower control limits, and then our value for X bar. X bar chart, the name of the chart tells us what's plotted on the chart. And in a similar way, we could chart the range chart, highlighting the range and then a set of 3 columns here. And that's it. That's how we can use Excel to create X bar and R control charts. See you next time.
All right, so that was pretty simple. And again, if you want to learn more about histograms, you got there. There's some more stuff on control charts here if you're interested. You don't really need to know that for the test. This is the table he was talking about, standard factors for control charts. And you've got more stuff on Pareto, on ogives, and histograms if you're interested. All right, any questions? That's all I got for today. See you guys.
Hey, Rick.